eventually. Jackie, do you want to come up the stairs there? Alexei, are you ready to join us? Jackie, okay. Alexei, here, is that okay? Okay. Sorry? You want me to switch to the other one? Okay. Right. Okay. Doing that. What about the angle? Okay, so we're going to have... Are these working now? Yeah. Okay. Right, I've been told to warn the panel. John, come up, love. That's it. And right, okay. We're still missing Justin. Has Justin Schlosberg managed to arrive? No? That's a shame. That's a pity, because he would have had a lot to contribute. You've seen him in the film. Okay, can people see, people at the top, can you see all the chairs? No. Still not? You want us to go further back? Oh my goodness. Are you all right there, Alexei? John, can you pull your chair back a bit further? Okay. Right, so what's happening now is we're live. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, and we are also hopefully being viewed by audience in the 4 other venues: Manchester, Cambridge, Sheffield, Liverpool. I'm going to introduce the 3 panelists that we have here. I don't know if anybody's heard from our missing panelist, Justin Schlosberg from the Media Reform Coalition. It would have been good to have his input. Anyway, on my left, your right, there's nothing political in that, Jon Pullman, the maker of the WitchHunt. Okay. On my right, your left, people you all know, Jackie Walker, of course, inspiration for the film. And Alexei Sayle, who's been making us all laugh for decades now, and always from a principled position of what needs to be said in the political world. So thank you, Alexei, for that. Let me think, is there any other housekeeping? I don't think so. Basically, we're gonna have a brief few words from the platform, starting with Alexei, who has not had anything to do with this film until now, although he has had things to do with Jackie's play, The Lynching, and he's got a fresh perspective on it. So a couple of minutes, Alexei, tell us your response to the film you've just seen.
Thank you, Naomi. Yes. Well, I mean, I thought it was interesting that, I don't know how fresh my perspective is, by the way, but I thought that one of the interesting things Jackie said when she talked about the box of information that she got, she referred to it as the dodgy dossier. And I've just been thinking that really these false claims of accusation of the search for anti-Semitism in the Labour Party is the weapons of mass destruction of our age. I think there is the same absolute lack of evidence. There is the same substitution for emotion rather than rational debate. And in many cases, it's the same fucking people doing it. Tony Blair weighing in to support Tom Watson's call for the Wavertree CLP to be suspended. So that's really all I've got to say. It's about I was attracted, you know, I felt drawn to supporting Jackie. I'm not in the Labour Party, which I always think means that, yeah, they can't fucking expel me. Well, why not? I think a comedian has to be free to, you know, obviously I support Jeremy Corbyn wholeheartedly, but I think that a comedian has to be free to criticise anybody, and that's why I will never be a member of the Labour Party, but certainly I support campaigns like this. You know, I mean, the hypocrisy, the wrongness, the absolute inversion of the truth in this, in Jackie's struggle is gobsmacking. We are through the looking glass when anti-racists are condemned by racists as being racists. Somebody like Jonathan Sachs, for example. We are in, they used to have, in Superman comics, they used to have this bizarro world where everything is backwards, and that is the world of these false accusations of left anti-Semitism, and that's, it's my job to, highlight ridiculousness, and there is no greater ridiculousness than this shit, so,
Thanks, Alexei. I'm just going to remind the panelists to try and keep these mics close to their mouths. Apparently it works a lot better for the sound. And remind our cameraman that you're recording it as well, aren't you, Carlos? It's not... Yeah, great, good. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to ask Jon Pullman to pick up the microphone at his feet and give us his reflections on why this film had to be made. Are you all right there, Jon?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I just have to say thank you to everyone for coming along today. This film was conceived quite some time ago, and in my bedroom, really, as a response to my own absolute overwhelming indignation about what I was seeing going on here. So to have got it to where it's at today is amazing for me. But what the message I would have to say is we really need to go forward with this. It's becoming increasingly evident. This is the trickiest of subjects, really, and I think that the reason I felt compelled to go forward and complete this project was we're into the 4th year now of this attack on Jeremy Corbyn, on the left, and on anybody that wants to stand up for the rights of Palestinians. And I have seen over the couple of years it's taken me to conceive and then produce this film. This is a virtually uncontested narrative in the public sphere, in the mainstream media. I mean, I would like it if somebody else had done this. It's cost me quite a lot of heartache, blood, sweat, toil, this film. But there's nothing else out there that's doing this, and this is going to be a really hard thing to take forward. The usual suspects have completely ignored this film so far, and I think going on from today, we need to have a concerted effort to make sure, not just that ordinary people who are maybe confused about it all see it, but the political elites that are absolutely blanking it because they don't want to be confronted with an obligation to answer what the film addresses.
Right. Thank you, Jon, and I'm sure people watching will have some questions for you and some comments of their own about how we can take this fight forward. So now, over to Jackie, who I'm sure will tell us her story and how she feels this film fills a need in the current political discourse. Here you go, Jackie.
Well, just to say, when this first happened to me, I was one of the first that it happened to, not the first, but one of the first. There was no organisation, there was no backing from anywhere. People were bewildered. A lot of people, probably even people here, really didn't know what was going on. And I think what we now understand, especially with the fact that the media is basically, it's extraordinary. Can I just tell you, it is extraordinary. People who are involved with me say they have never, ever known before the media blank. For example, the bomb scare we had last time at the Labour Party conference, they blanked that story. They're blanking this. This has only got out because of social media. And they do a mixture of strategies with me. One is to abuse me and threaten me. And I'm told by a journalist that the level of threats against me is quite high at the moment, particularly because of my hearing coming up. Or they blank. It's that mixture of both. But can I just say something about the film? Because I'm afraid I shared many times in Jon's bedroom, slaving over... It's true, Jon, come on. slaving over a hot computer. And even today, I was sort of amazed because, as you would expect, I've seen it a number of times. And that bit right at the end, when I say how proud I am about my mother and my mother's mothers, who have gone through the most extraordinary struggles just to be free, just to have the right to read and write, just to have the right to choose to have children or not. You know, that bit still today brought tears to my eyes. And I have to say, and I'm saying this directly to the Labour Party now, I see what is happening to me today as part of the structural racism, not just within our country, but within the Labour Party itself. You may think you are bringing me to tribunal, but I am pointing the finger at you to have justice, to stop MPs like Louise Ellman using her power to go on the mass media and to call me out and to demand, even before a hearing, that I be excluded. I demand justice from the Labour Party. And this film will be part of that, I hope. Thank you.
Okay. I'm afraid the house lights, although they're up, are still quite dim. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to see everybody's hands. You may need to come to the front if you want to indicate. But I see Norman, who is in the film, and it would be great to have a word from him. Yassine, would you like to take him the mic? This is Norman Thomas, chair of South Thanet CLP, has a story to tell. Where you go, Norman?
Can you hear me? Yeah. South Thanet has got... Hello, can you hear that? Yeah. Yeah? Okay. Well, South Thanet... It's on? Can you hear me? Okay. So, South Thanet has been... I had a double whammy because of this witch hunt. It's a very good title, The Witch Hunt, because first of all we lost Jackie because she was the vice chair of the local Labour Party, and which I am now. It's probably a cursed position, so they're coming for me next, I'm sure. Anyway, but then, more recently, we've now lost someone who was going to be the best parliamentary candidate we possibly could have had to take on, I don't know if you've ever heard of a chap called Craig McKinley, a Tory guy who has helped found UKIP, got off a charge of electoral fraud recently, and is a particularly nasty example of a Tory, a Tory person, MP, whatever you want to call him. But Rebecca Gordon-Nesbitt, we chose as a Corbyn-supporting, principled person to stand against him, and she has been struck down by the same witch hunt that's going on, that's threatening to smash the most progressive political movement this country has ever seen. They haven't suspended Rebecca, they haven't expelled her. What they've done is they've stopped her being our candidate. The NEC has stopped her, and it's on the basis of tweets which they say have the potential to bring the Labour Party into disrepute. They don't bring the Labour Party into disrepute, they have the potential to bring her. Now, who in this room has not got the potential to bring the Labour Party into disrepute? I certainly have. But Rebecca is not giving up. Rebecca is taking this fight on. She has been encouraged by the leadership of the Labour Party, amazingly enough. And we talk about a looking-glass world. We've got, in the shape of John MacDonald, yesterday at the Labour Representation Committee, said he had publicly expressed his support for Rebecca. Now, And what Rebecca's doing is she is going to take the Labour Party to court. She has got Mike Mansfield, who you may have heard of, as her representative, and unless the NEC revisits its decision very soon, then we are going to see the horrible, appalling spectacle of a Labour Party member suing the Labour Party. Nobody wants that to happen, but when natural justice is outraged in the way it's been outraged, what other recourse can you have?
Norman, can you wind up, please?
I wind up happily, but she has got a fundraiser. We've got leaflets for it here. If anyone can give money to her cause, please do. You just have to click on the link and you can pay to support her. But please support her, because this is a battle not for Rebecca, not just for Jackie, it's for the whole of the Labour Party. Because what's the point of having a Labour Party if it doesn't enshrine natural justice,
Norman,
if it is going to be witch hunted?
Give other people a chance,
Thank
please.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. You can put it down there. Right. Thank you. I've seen a couple of other hands, but first of all, you might wonder why I have a laptop open here. I'm watching the feed on Facebook from other parts of the country, and a question has come up from Manchester, which I'd like to read from Alison Harris, which has now disappeared. Such a nice question. I'm going to find it. Look, tell you what, I'll find it while we have... The first person I wanted was... I thought, is it Les? Yes, it is Les. Yes, I can give you the mic. Somebody over there, then I'll try and pick up the thing from Manchester. Yeah. Can you keep the comments very, very short? You might as well come to the front so people can see you.
Yeah.
I cannot see you guys. I really suggest that unless you're right at the front, I'm not going to see you. It's dark, so you can come down.
You're standing here, now I realize.
Yeah.
Everyone is invisible.
All right, guys, you're going to have to limit your comments to less than 2 minutes.
Yes.
Les,
yes, it will be short.
Try hard, okay?
It will be short.
Go ahead.
Yes. Since brevity is the soul of wit... okay. Since brevity is the soul of wit, I will be brief. Yes. Most people here will know, for the last 3 years... As most people here know, for the last 3 years, there has been a counter-campaign against the false allegations. The counter-campaign led by Free Speech and Israel, more recently Jewish Voice for Labour, and many other groups. But these counter-campaigns have not yet said publicly what the film says. Namely, that the false allegations come from racists for a racist agenda against the Palestinian movement. Now is the time for our counter-campaign to say that, to denounce the false allegations as racist.
Okay. Yes, microphone here, please. Can you introduce yourself? I'm sorry, I knew the other people. I'm afraid I
Hello,
I don't
my name
know
is Wojciech Dmachowski. I'm a local activist with Hackney South and Shoreditch Labour Party. And that's my point exactly, this thing about last summer the Israeli state proclaimed itself a racist and apartheid state with the passing of the nation-state bill into law. It's one of the foundation laws now. And given that this is the case, the existence of Labour Friends for Israel, in fact Conservative Friends for Israel, is incompatible with the party's ethos. All right, the Labour Party is not here to provide a home for racists. All right, equality for all, freedom for all people is the ethos of the Labour Party. There is no place in the Labour Party for Labour Friends for Israel. They are funded by Israel, all right? Their stated purpose is to destroy Corbyn, really well stated. It's to destroy Corbyn. This party, this group of people have to be removed from the Labour Party. In the same way as the Conservative Friends of Israel have to be removed from the Conservative Party. We cannot have these groups in political parties in the United Kingdom.
Can you wind up, please? Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, there's a number of people queued up. We need to go back to Alexei, Jackie and John briefly, then we'll have another few questions. I just wanted to tell you what a couple of people on Facebook are saying. One has raised the question of lack of support from, dare I say, momentum for the victims of the witch hunt. If anybody dare to tackle that question, that would be interesting. Somebody else has said, how come the information that we've seen in Jon's film about the connections between sections of the Zionist movement and the far right are not more widely publicised? That's an interesting question to think about, isn't it? I'll take one more, and that was going to be, we've had that gentleman here, yes, that's right. Please do introduce yourself. Hold it close, please.
My name's Paul Mackney. I was General Secretary of NAPFI, which is now in UCU. And I just want to say that there is a longer history of this particular approach. And when in UCU we took positions in support of Palestine, we started getting email harassment from all over the world. I was summoned along when we were becoming UCU with Sally Hunt when we were joint general secretaries to see John Mann. You're allowed to hiss. And Dennis, I'm very pleased he went to prison McShane. And we were told to stop any motions to our conference which were in support of the Palestinians because they were, I've forgotten the legal term, but they were automatically, sorry? No, not that one. They were automatically bound to be racist.
Speak up a bit, Paul, please.
They subsequently took, after I had to retire, they took the union to tribunal. And if you want some joy in seeing this approach taken apart by a proper legal proceedings, read the judgment of Fraser v. UCU. And you will see, almost finished, you'll see some of the same characters telling lies before the tribunal, but also being called out for doing it.
Right, thank you. Thank you very much, Paul. So far, our contributors have all been male. I'm going to take the lady over here. Please try and stick to very, very brief, minute and a half or something, okay? Hold it very close, say who you are, away you go.
Okay.
Hold closer.
Hi, my name is Nira Yuval Davis. I'm one of the few Israeli Jewish anti-Zionists who've been living here for quite a long time. You have seen two in the film, Moshe Machover and Ilan Pape, who of similar. We all see the struggle against anti-Semitism, racism, and Zionism as complementary rather than as contradictory. As was very well expressed in the film, we are living in horrible times now more than ever. But in another way, shortly after I came to Britain in the 70s, I tried to speak about what has been happening in Israel in several labor branches. And I was booed out. Once, dramatically, even I had a gun against me. It is really heartwarming to see how many people have come to accept what for me has been a common sense for many years. Thank you.
Right, there are several other people indicating, but you may have noticed somebody hurtling onto the platform here. You'll recognize him from the film. Justin, you haven't seen the film, right? Unfortunately not. It's a little awkward. Oh my goodness. But listen, everybody would like to hear a few words from you. I'm sorry to say you have to keep it brief because we want to give lots of people a chance to come back.
I will keep it brief. I mean, obviously I just want to pay tribute to Jon, to Naomi, to JVL, for putting this on. I think it's incredibly, absolutely, and absolutely pay tribute to Jackie. I think this is an incredibly important moment that we're in, both in terms of the awareness of the reality of the issues at stake, in terms of the media, in terms of anti-Semitism within the Labour Party. This is a much needed, although I haven't seen the film, but from what I can gather and what I can imagine, it is a much needed corrective to an overwhelmingly dominant narrative that is persisting and unfortunately shows very little signs of waning. And I think the more that we can speak up in a way that is tolerant, that is understanding, but also robust in defending the legitimacy of the Labour Party, the legitimacy of our movement against grossly distorted, unfair attacks, the better chance we'll stand going forward.
Right. There are more people wanting to speak than we are going to have time for. I've seen Sabi down there. He had his hand up for some time. Yeah, there's a queue. I've seen Glyn. At a certain point, we have to have... I know, I can see Naomi in particular. I wonder if I can give... Does anybody on the panel feel the urge to come back in very quickly to one point? Go on then, Jackie.
I want to explain something about momentum, and I think it says it all. Some of you may have heard recently about the situation with Luciana Berger, who was up for censure by her party. Her party, by the way, who has a chair who is Jewish. And John Lansman tweeted this thing out. It was beautiful. It was so beautiful. And what he said is, whatever our politics, Luciana has been through terrible abuse. And we need sometimes to show solidarity with people we don't agree with. I mean, I would have liked Momentum and John to have shown that solidarity to me and to other... to other anti-Zionist or pro-Palestinian Jews, and to people of colour. He has been remarkable in his lack of doing that. I have to tell you, I have seen an email already from Jon Lansman, who sits on the NEC, who's already said Jackie Walker is an anti-Semite. So I just hope he recuses himself from any discussion about me.
Right. Okay, I'm going to take Naomi Wayne, who had her hand up some time ago. Thanks, yes. Okay.
Thank you. My name's Naomi Wayne. I am one of the... Can you hear me? Right. All right, sorry. My name is Naomi Wayne. I am one of the founder members of Jews for Justice for Palestinians. I was one... It's all right. Don't have to clap me for that. Wait and hear what I'm going to say. I was also one of the 4 or 5 people it was who commissioned the first legal opinion which took apart the IHRA definition on anti-Semitism. And I remember when we got the opinion, we thought we'd won. That was it. It had devastated the definition. But what happened was we discovered that although we had all the best tunes, to quote Tom Lehrer, we have lost the campaign politically comprehensively. And I want to address that and ask why. I thought the film we've just seen was very well made, very professional. It looked like it was made on a shoestring, but that's not a criticism because Moonlight was made on a shoestring, and we all know where that ended up. However, the question I want to ask was, who are you addressing this film to? And I ask this question because, like Alexei, though I'm not a comedian, I am also not in the Labour Party. I was in the Labour Party in the 1990s for a few brief, very unhappy years, though anti-Semitism had no part in why I left. But I want to remind people here, most Labour Party voters are not in the most people who vote Labour are not in the Labour Party. Many people on the left are not in the Labour Party. This is not a matter of private grief. This is not just the responsibility of the Labour Party. You, in the Labour Party, have a responsibility to people like me, who are not in the Labour Party, who vote Labour. And I am not clear, and I don't want to introduce discord, that this film will persuade people who are not already persuaded, all right? And I'm talking about people who don't know all the ins and outs of the issues in Israel, Palestine. And I am talking, I'm going to say very specifically, about Jews who have got themselves into a total hysteria, and getting them out of that hysteria, I think, requires very specific
Naomi,
measures.
can you
So
wind
that's
up
my
there? Thank you.
question to the panel.
Okay. Whoa, time, this is going to be difficult. I've got people on Facebook begging to be heard, but we've got people in the room begging to be heard as well. Let me see. Sabi, you've had your hand up for ages. I'll have to take Sabi, who's well worth listening to. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Sabi Segal, I'm chair of Camden Palestine Solidarity Campaign. Congratulations to the filmmaker. It is an excellent film. And I think what it brings out, to me at least, is that the Zionists will not give up trying to remove Jeremy Corbyn as leader of the Labour Party. The campaign will go on, and I speak as a non-Labour Party member. But the Zionist smear campaign, the witch hunt against Corbyn, is clearly a threat not only to the Labour Party, it is a threat to the entire left, including the anti-racist movement as a whole. And well, I think that one point I want to make absolutely clear, the contradiction at the heart of Zionism. Zionism, Israel, as Moshe Machaver reminded us, is supported to the hilt by Western imperialist forces. It is exactly those same social political forces that actually in the final analysis were responsible for the destruction of 6 million Jews in the 1930s. It was the crisis of that system, the same system that upholds the state of Israel. And I think the final point is that we should all support the anti-racist march called by Stand Up to Racism, uniting all the forces on the 16th of March. I'll thank you very much.
thank you, Sabi. That's brilliant. I'm going to just give you something from Facebook. I'm not quite sure where this person is. Maybe it's from Cambridge. Reiterating the points that have been made about it not just being a Labour Party issue. Someone who says they're a Lib Dem, they're a local councillor. They feel the movement needs to be much more inclusive. Anybody in support of the Palestinian cause, anybody who's anti-racist should be involved in this struggle, and I think we all agree with that. I'm really pressed for time, people. I have to tell you that. We now have about 4 minutes before we're going to bring on the co-chair of JVL, which is Leah Levain. Leah's going to be ready in a few minutes. Oh, Brian, it is Brian up there, isn't it? I'm sorry, mate, I can't really make any exceptions. I know I've got a queue of people here, but people are saying they want to hear back from the panel. Let's not forget the people who are up here to give us the benefit of their wisdom. Is it okay with everybody if I give Alexei a minute? John and Justin, okay? Alexei, would you like to have some reflections on what we've been discussing?
I actually remember seeing, it's an interesting question the lady who co-founded Jews for Justice for Palestinians made. And I think there's actually nothing wrong in a piece of work like this, which is specifically focused towards, people aware of the nuances of the movement. But I remember watching the Kathy Newman interview with Jackie on Channel 4 News, and normally what was really illuminating about it was partly that her voice is normally down there as somebody who's relaxed but when she was interviewing you, I remember her voice was right up there, right in her throat, this high-pitched kind of fury, clenched voice, and if you ever watch that interview, it's really fascinating, and that indicated, I think, that the fury that she felt, the revulsion that she felt for you, is indicative, and I'm sure she didn't know she was doing it, but it was indicative of a kind of inbuilt hatred, inbuilt revulsion for what Jackie was saying, what Jackie represented. And that's one of the things that you're struggling against, is a kind of automatic, kind of unthinking kind of dislike for people who stand up to the power. And it's very difficult. I admire anybody who struggles to get over it, it's hard. But I do think, personally, this is viewed entirely from the outside, that the Labour leadership has not been particularly fleet of foot in repudiating. I don't know the internal struggles. I personally would not have, appointed an old school newspaper journalists like Seamus Milner's my communications director. I think you need to show the kind of creativity that young people showed during the election campaign. The online creativity seems to have been, I don't know, you probably know more about this, Justin, but I mean, seems to have been missing from the leadership's response. They have to be a lot cleverer, they have to be a lot funnier, they have to be a lot less confused in their messaging, you know.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Okay. Let's have a quick word from Justin and then from Jon.
Yeah, just a couple of incredibly important points raised. Firstly, this issue of the purpose of making films like this and media like this. Clearly, a film like this is not going to persuade the already unpersuaded or unpersuadable. The point is, and we've seen this repeatedly throughout history, that unfortunately, and in the contemporary media landscape, unfortunately, we still live in an age where there are fundamentally structural power imbalances in the mainstream media, and that they favour a broadly conservative neoliberal ideological agenda. And that's what we're up against in all of these issues. And the point about that is they will have two knee-jerk responses to challenges from the left in any form. One is to ignore, and they will ignore as much as they can for as long as they can, which is what they have done for socialism for the best part of the last 20, 30 years. When they can no longer ignore it, they will respond by attacking. And the attacking will be relentless, as we have seen, and they will use every stone and every weapon to do that. And so all that we can do, and people like Jon can do, alternative media practitioners, filmmakers, spokespeople from the left of all persuasions, is stand up and be counted. Be tolerant, be cooperative and collaborative, but be robust, as I said, in defending and correcting that important record, which I think is what this film is going to do.
Fantastic. Okay. Jon, before Jon has a word, a nice comment from Julia Cameron. I don't know where she is. I'm not Jewish and have been quite nervous to speak out as strongly as I could do on social media in particular, because of the fear of being labelled anti-Semitic. But this film has encouraged me to speak out in support of Jackie whenever I can, and I will be encouraging people to watch this film if it remains available, which it will.
Well, that's just answered really the earlier question from Naomi about whether this is all oriented around the Labour Party. I'm not Jewish, and I'm not a member of the Labour Party. I'm someone who's passionate about justice, and I want to use the film because it pulls in a lot of broad issues. And this is partly what I'm trying to do. It's a busy film, I accept that. Some people will say it's overcrowded, but there's an awful lot to pick out from that. And I think it's important to remember at the beginning and the end of the film where you've got very big picture statements from Noam Chomsky. And that really contains really the thrust of the film. There's so much at stake here. The stakes are what are riding not just on what's going on within the Labour Party, but the broader drift of politics towards the right. I mean, anybody that really cares about justice and truth, really, have got to help me and others here to take this film forward. Thanks.
Okay. There are some people who are desperate to speak. There are people who I know can be quite long-winded, so I'm not going to call them yet. We've got to have a word from Leah. Where are you, Leah? Okay, you come up, Leah. Leah is one of the co-chairs of Jewish Voice for Labour. She's a Labour councillor in Hastings. And, you could have used that, was fine. And the other co-chair, Jenny Manson, you may have seen quite a bit on media. She's not with us today for family reasons, but Leah, a couple of minutes, or less if you can.
Yes, if I can.
A minute.
I just want to say, really, thank you all for coming, but a huge thanks to Jon, to Jackie, and the whole team who've been working so I've had nothing to do with it. I really, really want to acknowledge it, and I want to acknowledge all of your patience with the skullduggery, and the reasons, as you will understand, particularly because of the bomb threat that we had in Liverpool. And I can say, coming from Hastings, that we had a meeting, a Palestine Solidarity Campaign meeting just a couple of weeks ago, and we had to go to 3 different venues because the level of threat was so huge on a local hotel that's been fabulously supportive, and then a local charity that's also been supportive, that they just couldn't take the pressure. Her business was close to being destroyed by the online abuse and that they were getting. So that's just an example of, I think of the relentlessness that would go on. And very aware point that Jackie has made, you may not get time, I'm sorry if I'm stealing your thunder, that when this started, the attacks on Jackie in particular, there was no Jewish Voice for Labour. There was nowhere. So Jackie was very much on her own. I mean, literally being hung out to dry. And so we are really, really proud, not only what Jewish Voice for Labour are achieving in terms of coverage. I mean, everywhere I go and speak, and I do go to ridiculous spaces like Bournemouth, I'm going to, and Swanage, and Melksham, and other of my comrades would have been in other far-off places. But everyone is so interested in this topic, whether they are or they're not in the Labour Party. And the reason to me it is so crucial that we deal with this, because it's, as Naomi Wayne was saying, the woman who asked the questions at the front, it isn't just about the Labour Party. Whether you agree with everything, I don't agree with every dot and comma Jeremy Corbyn said, what he presented when he was elected was a hope that people could see that it didn't have to be like this. We didn't have to have neoliberalism, austerity. And so then the debate should be about how do we make that work? And that is so terrifying. And the wickedness of taking hope away from people who are dying in the streets, dying because of what's happening with their PIP assessments, and what is happening with the appalling mess of universal credit that my MP Amber Rudd says is only affecting one or two people. There's thousands in our own constituency. That's why we're important. That's why this fight is important, and we need to really use this film and all the issues it's raised to raise the wider issues as well as the democracy and Labour Party.
Thanks, Leah. Thank you very much. Now, oh my goodness. Okay, we now have barely 15 minutes left. We have Mike Cushman ready here to talk to you about why we need your money, lots of it. Okay,
yeah.
Mike, you're going to have to be really brief.
One or two of you may
stuff.
have the naive belief that you got a free trip to the flicks. Others of you have come across me before and now know this is your chance to stop just being a passive audience and become active participants in making sure this important film goes round the country. And what I'm asking you to do is, some of you came here terribly bowed down with filthy lucre, and you really do not want to be walking the streets of North London carrying that money. You need to be giving that responsibility to me. Now, some of you have got terrible £50 notes in your pockets because you came here because you know you wanted to give them to me. Who's got some nice, big, plastic or paper notes they want to give me? Come on, someone get
You're going to have to be quick,
oh,
Mike.
Right, thank you. Oh, this is a very lonely note. It's
I'm going to give you 90 seconds.
Come on. We haven't got a lot of time here. We need more. That's good. Because you saw renting this cinema wasn't cheap. Security wasn't cheap. I'm not cheap.
Mike, what we may do...
No.
We'll pass the buckets round.
Buckets as well. Oh, this is really good. Because as we go round, we need to play hard. Oh, dear, it's all... I can't
Mike, I'm going to intervene.
Yeah.
I think people want to hear what's being said. People also want to give you lots of money. I know they do, don't you, everybody? Yes, you do. Good. So the people with the buckets, where are the people with the buckets? Oh, yeah, there's some there. Anybody upstairs?
Because you're upstairs doesn't mean you're let off. Even the 3 and 9's about money as well.
All right. No, okay, Mike, can I shut you up now? Because it's very entertaining, but we still have a discussion to complete. And don't forget, we've got online audience who aren't participating in this collection, though hopefully they'll be giving in other ways. Okay. Right, we've heard from... I'm really sorry to the people queuing up. There simply is not time. I'm really, really sorry. Go on Facebook and add your comments there. I'm really sorry. There simply isn't time. We're going to hear, in this order, we're going to hear from Jackie, then Justin, then John, then Alexei. Okay?
I want to I feel like I'm saying the last speech before I mount the executioner's block. Because in a way, that is what's going to be happening to me. But before I do that, there are certain dates that I want you to note and certain supports I'm calling on, please. One is to remember that in part this collection is going to go to a further development of the play, The Lynching, which has been so much at the heart of this campaign, which has toured all across Europe and in this country and overseas, and has made a huge impact on the narrative now. And we're upping it. We've got 2 of the professional actresses in the audience today. It's going to be played by 3 actresses, and all sorts of bits of it are going to be developed, and it's going to be in London, performed on the 28th of this month. Please come and see it and look out. And some of you will see that somebody has been passing around cards for the 26th of March. Now that date is relevant because that is the date of my hearing. And I've already said, what I don't want is a picket. What I do want is a celebration and an affirmation of the anti-racist left and the campaign of vilification that we have stood against and we're still fighting against now. So I hope we can all, if you can't be there in person, you can be there in spirit. Thank you, comrades. And it goes on.
There's always a tendency with events like this to kind of leave with a slightly sunken heart and a kind of pessimism about the struggle that we all face. And I think it's worth ending on a note of optimism and hope, reiterating some of the points that have been made by Jackie and others. The reality is that this issue hasn't succeeded in the way that some may have intended it to succeed. It hasn't fatally undermined our movement. It hasn't convinced, I think, the vast majority of people in this country that Labour or the left is rife with anti-Semitism or hatred or extremism. And the reason that it hasn't, quite frankly, is because of the work of people like Jon, because of the work of groups like JVL, who are standing up and really just telling one thing, which is the truth. And the more that we are armed with the truth in the shape of hard facts, of evidence, and the more we're able to present that in a way that is not in any way aggressive or violent, the harder the case is to write off the Labour Party, to write off the left as a movement captured by racist extremists, which is one of the most absurd examples of doublespeak in our time.
Oh, hi. Some of you will know my wife Linda, who's much more prescient in political affairs than I am. And a couple of years ago, she was on her computer and she said, I said, what are you looking at? And she said, I'm looking to this thing, the IHRA definition. And I go, yeah, you don't want to worry about that. That's nothing. You know, why are you messing? And she said, no, this is where they're going to make their stand. This is where they're going to try and destroy the Labour Party. This is where they're going to try and destroy Corbyn. And this fight is central. This is where those right-wing bastards are making their stand. This is the central issue. This is their fight back. And if we can defeat this, then we can defeat anything.
Jon is modestly saying that he doesn't want to wrap up. I don't think we can permit that. Do you? No, I think he should say something.
Well, Justin said it all there, really, so a brilliant contribution from him. Just to really reiterate, I mean, this film is an attempt to demonstrate to people who are prepared to be open-minded that we are being deceived about a really incredibly important issue in modern Britain and the world, really. So I don't know how we're going to take this forward, but from my point of view, I mean, maybe to wrap up, a small story from this morning. Someone saw the trailer this morning. Someone I know only vaguely through political connections, who says, I was really encouraged by seeing this trailer because my standing up for the Palestinians lost me my job, my partner, and my health. This is somebody who's not in the limelight, but these are what the stakes are, and it's going to take some people who are prepared to say, we'll take some risks, we'll take some potential attacks, because it's such an important thing to stand up for, really. So thanks for everyone for the support.
Well, friends, we are now in a position to wrap up this event. Again, big apologies to all the people who I'm sure had really valuable things to say and didn't get to say them. The constraints of this format means that we had to be very tight with time. I want to thank the staff at this wonderful cinema who've been so incredibly supportive and helpful. Somebody's banging on a microphone. The security staff, thank you for your help. Carlos and his companions who've helped to make the live stream and the broadcast happen, which is an incredible thing. I've never been involved with such a thing before. People from the Labour Representation Committee, everybody who's supported the JVL, obviously, the committee and all the members, everybody who's been watching and feeding in from Facebook. It's been amazing. We've had messages in from Australia and all sorts of places. So this film is going to get out. Okay, let's say farewell. We should sing the Internationale or something. Thank you, everybody. If people want to go to a nice cafe...